Hey everybody, it's Peter, and this is the Husqvarna 701 Enduro, and this is the 2024 model, and 2024 matters because the rest of this class is stuck in the 1990s, maybe even 1980s. This thing is absolutely awesome. It's an Enduro bike, which is like a dual sport bike, but even on Husqvarna's website, they don't put it in the Enduro section, even though the name of it right here says Enduro 701. They put it in the travel section, which puts us with the videos that we did yesterday of the Norden 901 and the Norden 901 Expedition, which I'm just pointing to, which are just off screen right there. So what is this bike? Basically, this is a true high-tech dual sport bike that you could equip up as a really, really capable off-road adventure bike, but it's kind of unique in what it is. And in this review, we're gonna go through all the details up close and make sure we see it in person. Now, if I don't reach every detail that you want to, if I don't get to every detail that you want to, make sure you subscribe to the channel and let me know in the comments what you want to know about this bike, because I'm filming here at Yard Gear in Fredericton, New Brunswick, and they give me complete access to their entire motorcycle lineup. So if there's anything you want to know about this that I don't get to in this video, I can find out the answer for you and get it back up either in future videos or in the comment section. And again, we'll come back to this bike again and again in future videos to build a video database of everything you want to know about it. So let's get going with this review. So let's talk about what this is. We mentioned it's a dual sport, but again, a lot of those dual sports are really stuck in the old times. A lot of them are carbureted. A lot of them really don't have big engines. This one's still a single cylinder, but it's a single cylinder that has evolved in the way that it's more than just fuel injection added, or for instance, the braking system. It's evolved in more than just ABS added for legal reasons. This thing is truly a modern bike in 2024. And what that means is you get a lot more than you would typically get in a dual sport. So as we go through the bike, we're going to start with the front wheel. We're going to talk about not just the ABS brakes, but the cornering ABS and Brembo brakes. We're going to move through the engine. We're going to move through some design differences on this bike that make it really unique. And then we're going to finish with talking about who this bike is for. We're also going to take a look at the dash here. There's a couple of interesting things in the dash. Fairly simplistic dash, but really the dashes in this class are pretty simplistic, but you do have a couple key functions that are worth talking about. So let's start down here at the front wheel. We'll move our way through. So taking a look at the front wheel, you can really understand the manufacturer's intent for this bike. And there's a lot going on. First of all, spoked wheels. Obviously, this looks like a full-on dirt bike, but dirt bikes in this class used to have drum brakes, even in the front, not all that long ago. These aren't drum brakes at all. These are sort of pedal style disc brakes, and they are Brembo branded. Now, Brembo makes, of course, good grabbing brakes, good feel, good everything else, but they also tend to make a little bit lighter weight brakes than the competition for the same thing. So you've got great stopping power, and you've got a little bit less unsprung weight, and that goes along with the upside down forks. So again, going to give you less unsprung weight. And in this class, that's pretty atypical. You've also got fully adjustable forks. One of the big things with a dual sport bike is you tend to have the forks you have, not always that adjustable. So again, fully adjustable forks here, which allow you to sort of cater that ride to what you want. And on a bike like this, where you're fully capable of going for a couple hours on the highway before you hit those trails, it's really nice to have adjustable on the fly, tool-free adjustability in your front forks. And that allows you to sort of set it up for the road, set it up for the highway, and then reset it up for when you hit the dirt and that kind of thing. Now, this bike does have ABS. There's a lot of debate in the off-road crowd saying, oh, you don't need it, you don't need it, you don't need it. Well, that's fine. You can switch it off if you don't need it. I would argue that you do need it. You can see that ABS ring, especially with these off-road tires. If you hit a slippery, wet section of road, or even if you come out with wet, muddy tires as you're coming out onto the road, you want to make sure that your ABS is on, because you haven't got the grip you would have on a street bike tire, and you're still driving this on the street. So ABS on the street is really helpful, but of course it has a switchable ABS. You can turn that off. The other thing that's really cool is it is lean sensitive ABS. You don't see that very often in anything in this price range, and usually you don't see it until you step up to a sport touring bike, but to see it here on this dirt bike, really kind of cool. So it has a sense, and if the bike's leaning one way or the other, and it can adjust that ABS just for you. So really smart technology right up front. Let's keep moving back. Taking a look at the heart of this bike, you see a couple cool things. First of all, this is a single cylinder engine like I mentioned before. So single cylinder is very compact, very lightweight, relatively speaking, at least when you do it right, it can be. And it also has a ton of torque. So this one's got about 74 horsepower. They list torque in newton meters, so I haven't done the conversion. You can sort of do that on the website, husqvarnamotorcycles.com, Husqvarna-motorcycles. But 74 horsepower is a lot. If you think about a twin cylinder popular engine from, say, Kawasaki, like on the Kawasaki Versys, which is a twin cylinder cylinder, you're ending up around 70 horsepower or so. So 74 from a single CC, single cylinder, similar CC bike is crazy. And if you want to compare to like the KLR, again, way more. Something like the Suzuki dual sport bike, way more horsepower. So you've got a ton more power because they've continued to develop this. So of course, fuel injection, everything you need in there. And then the other thing you're going to notice is a really compact area. Your suspension, rear suspension there is adjustable as well, tucked right up close here to keep everything away, everything small and centralized. So you have a really compact center of weight here, and there's no fuel tank up here. So instead of a fuel tank, the seat goes right up front. The fuel tank is actually underneath the seat, and it fills from the back end of the bike. And again, all of that's going to do a good job of keeping the weight centralized and balanced. Really smart packaging here. You can see a couple differences here. You do have the traditional, no rubber padding on the, or no rubber pad on the foot pegs here. So very traditional dirt bike style stuff. You can stand on this bike. If you watch the videos from Husqvarna on what they do on their website, it'd be the same videos as the adventure bikes, except where the adventure bikes are just kind of cruising through. This one's actually wheeling through. So all about having that grip in the dirt there. You've got a 6-speed transmission to this engine. It is available with a quick shifter, so you don't have to use your clutch. We'll talk about the clutch when we get there. And again, the long swing arm here, all about balance. So again, weight centralization, good power, and balance. Taking a look at the rear wheel here, just worth pointing out, of course, 21-inch front, 18-inch rear, typical dirt bike stuff. But one thing that's not typical dirt bike stuff is what you see right there. Those are still Brembo brakes even on the rear. And there's a lot of motorcycles that will go to the expense of putting Brembos on the front fork, but not on the rear. So you've got front and rear Brembos, again, that lighter weight, that really good quality, great feel, everything, great control, very precise. And also the ABS ring is a little bit in there. I don't know if you can see those little dots in here. So right in this area here shows your ABS ring. Again, switchable ABS. You can turn it on, turn it off. So you've got that ability to have that control on the road, as well as just let this thing slide in the dirt when you're off-road. So before we move you on and show you the seat here and a couple of cool things that are unique about this bike, let me just jump across it. Now this is a taller seat height than something like the Norden 901. And in theory, I can feel that in my toes. You can see my toes are kind of pointed, but it's definitely a narrower bike here, narrower the whole way through. And it feels much lighter. So although my toes are kind of tippy-toed here, it's way more confidence inspiring than something like the Norden, which is still pretty confidence inspiring. The other thing is this is a firmer dirt bike seat. So while I say this can be an adventure bike, it is something you're gonna have to keep in mind that the seat here is not built for the comfort that the Norden is. It's built more for the maneuverability of a true dirt bike off-road. So again, you're gonna use this on the highway to get to the trail. You're very rarely gonna ride this for long times just on the highway, which is where the Norden is really good. Norden's fantastic for a cruising bike on the highway and very dirt capable. This one's exceptionally dirt capable. And again, it can get you there on the highway. So a couple things worth noticing here. First of all, overall seating position, very good. The seat, because there's no tank here, allows that grip to go right up there. So even if I was to move way forward on the seat, way back, not only do you have grip from sort of your rear end, but your legs here are gripping onto the soft seats here, so you can really kind of get a feel for the bike. Seating position is typical dual sport, lots of room to move around forward and back, but sitting comfortably, highway type positioning. If you wanted to get a windshield for this, there's nothing available from Husqvarna, but there are aftermarket solutions. And if you wanted luggage on the back, you can get those right from Husqvarna. So again, you can turn this into a bit more of an adventure bike instead of a traditional dual sport, but this thing's absolutely going to be way more off-road capable. But very comfortable seating position here. We're going to move around and take a look at some of this, but let's just start with the seat and move up away to the dash now. So before we move on to the seat, let's just look at the back of the seat where you can see the fuel filler cap. So again, key lock there. This is where you fill the fuel. Again, the tank is more underneath the seat. That's going to keep the weight balance where you want it, but it's also going to keep the weight sort of lower. Instead of sitting on top of the engine, you're getting it lower in the bike. And just a unique spot to put it. Now you do have these grab handles here, supposedly for your passengers, but you can stick stuff on there right away. But it does give you sort of mounting points to build out a luggage system from here, whether it's soft bags, hard bags. And again, just if it was a soft bag, you got lots of stuff to secure it to. They're screwed in there and there, which means you have a solid spot there to wrap anything around. It's not going to go forward or back once you've secured it there. So you have that option. High exhaust, typical dirt bike stuff. Simple, nothing fancy about the lights there. Now let's take a look at the seat here. It is firm, but it's not as uncomfortable as some people have said. I've heard some people say, it's just too firm to be an adventure bike. It's probably too firm to be an adventure bike, but it's a decent dirt bike seat. And you can see it kind of comes all the way forward there. And that's what I was talking about, sort of when you move around here, even if you're in a seated position or if you're really kind of moving your body, you've still got that grippiness. Where a lot of bikes would be plastic body panel here, you still got that grippiness you can dig your knees into no matter what seating position you're in. Now, the other thing I want to show you here is the keys. I'm going to try to zoom into just the center of the shot right here. And you can see that the key, this is the traditional key right there. Let me just sort of keep it in the shot. So that's your key right there. We throw that in there, and you can see that you've got the sort of key covers there. Husqvarna does these kind of key covers, just kind of makes it look a little more high-end than you know, than something that you would see on a traditional bike. So there's your key, and that means you can move up to your dash. Let's go a bit wide angle. So very simple dash. Let's start with the controls over here, and then move our way to the dash real quick. So when we talk about controls, we have to talk about the slipper and assist clutch first, and you can see right there in the center of your screen, let's just zoom in, that is a little adjuster, and what that's gonna do is allow you to have that clutch lever moved in or moved out, and that of course is going to help you if you have smaller hands or big hands. But the other thing it can do is because of the positioning difference, it can change the feel of where that grab point is on the clutch. Now again, on an off-road bike, you wanna be really precise with where that clutch grabs. This does have a quick shifter, so if you want to, you can just kind of get it into first gear and then you know, ignore this for part of your riding, but depends on the kind of riding you're doing. Sometimes using that clutch is an important piece of dirt riding. So again, even if you want to adjust it for, like, you know, simpler on the highway, and then you want to have a little bit more control, or adjust it based on how you're feeling, maybe you've got different gloves on, that kind of thing, you have the ability to adjust that. So a lot of people think you adjust it once and leave it, but again, depending on your gloves, depending on your feel, depending on your ride, you can really kind of get that clutch feel exactly where you want. The brake lever is also adjustable for reach, has a little different style because of the Brembo system, but again, also adjustable for reach. Now let's take a look at the controls down here and move our way across. All right, take a look at the controls. Pretty basic stuff here. You got this traditional headlight, high beam, low beam. There is no trigger there for sometimes for high beams like that. The one miss on this bike in my mind is the rest of this bike is relatively modern. Would have liked to see an LED headlight. There's your signals, there's your horn down there, and we're gonna turn the key on for just a quick second here because you can see this light up. Now that is white and that was green. That did not show at all on camera. So maybe I can just try that one more time by zooming in here. If we select something here, there's your tracks. Yeah, it's kind of blinking green, so you can sort of see they're both green now, even though that one's really bright, that one's dull. That goes back to white. So you can see what you have there, and your map there is basically your drive modes, and your traction control is there as well. So traction control is off. You can change the traction control, have to cycle through those. To do, actually traction control light might be off just because the bike is off. But again, this is green right now, and that is green as well. That is now white, so it's hard to show exactly on camera. It's kind of washing out, but you do have a very basic control to control your drive modes and your traction control system on there. So that's kind of nice. Let's take a look at the dash. Very, very basic dash here. Pretty much nothing in the class has a tack. Now let's talk about why there would be no tack on something like this. This is a single cylinder engine. Single cylinder engines make their power lower in the power band. Now this one still revs out pretty good, but the reality is that this thing can rev a lot further than it makes power because of that, the design of the engine. So most of your torque's gonna be fairly down low, most of your power's gonna be down low, but it can rev out. You don't really need a tack to be able to tell what you're doing here, but you've got, you know, you've got the basic dash there. Again, almost nobody in the class has a tack. It is what it is. You got a trip computer there a little bit. You can cycle through trip 1, trip 2, various things. Your average, this is set to miles an hour right now. It should be kilometers an hour for Canadians here. And then sort of the same thing over here. Actually, it looks like it does the same thing left and right. So the button on either side, whichever one you want to use, can go sort of left and right in the menu. Typical warning lights there, your neutral lights, your oil lights, your signal lights, and on the far side here is an ABS. It's a 3-mode ABS. I don't know if you can see that button there. We can't see it. Let me just move the camera. I'll show you a little bit better. All right, so there's your ABS light. Again, the speedometer's right here, just to the left there is your ABS light. Now, I believe this sort of 3-mode indicator indicates the level of ABS you're on. I'll be very honest, I'm not 100% sure how that works, but there are indicators there to give you an indication. It's probably something I should have checked in the owner's manual. If you own this bike or you've been riding this bike and you know for sure what that ABS is, feel free to leave us a comment in the comments, and I'll make sure I address that comment. But yeah, there is an ABS light to reflect your ABS modes. The other really important piece to show you on this bike is the suspension adjustment. So I'm looking at the top of the left fork tube right now. The right fork tube is identical, except instead of the COMP, that actually says COMP, you can't see that, it says REB. So compression on this side, rebound on the other side, and the other side where this is white, the other side is red. So red, rebound, white, compression. So red rebound is pretty easy to remember. So you can adjust these by hand. No tools necessary. You can sort of tweak them around, click, 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 so you can sort of see they click into place. And you can adjust them by hand while you're on the go. And again, on a dual sport, adventure, on-off-road type bike, I think it's super important to be able to have adjustable suspension that not only can be adjusted, but can be adjusted on the fly without tools. That allows you to dial it up or down for the road, dial it up or down for off-road, and depending on the off-road conditions you're at, again, compression and rebound adjustment right there, easily adjustable. So you can tweak it as you go just to dial it in to make sure you're keeping that wheel in contact with the ground, make sure you're getting the performance you want for the speed you're going, for the terrain you're on. Super, super handy stuff. And these are really quality shocks. So who is this bike for? And that to me is a really interesting one because, like I said, even though this says Enduro right here on the body, not just in the name of the vehicle, they literally put the sticker on Husqvarna's website, it's not listed with their multiple Enduro bikes. It's listed under travel, which puts it in their mind closer to the adventure bikes like the Norden that we reviewed yesterday on this channel, Norden Expedition. So to me, this is not really an adventure bike. Let's not kid ourselves, but it is so far above and beyond the current dual sport crop as far as technology, as far as performance, as far as just even engine power to so many of them. It really is a step above. It's fully capable on the highway. You've got all kinds of power and speed. It's really precise off-road. And again, this is the type of adventure bike that if you wanted to make it into an adventure bike, you can put some bags on the back here. Like I said, aftermarket windshield if you really want that as well. And you can step this thing up to become a purely off-road centered adventure bike. So again, whether you want the dual sport with proper power, proper technology, proper traction control, ABS, Brembo brakes, great engine, all that stuff, you can do that in the dual sport, but if you want to view it as sort of a truly off-road centered adventure bike, you could do that as well. There's good value here. It's not the cheapest one in the class because the cheapest ones in the class have been unchanged for 20, maybe even pretty much 30 years. This thing is advanced, and basically what Husqvarna does here is they've taken a class of bike that has mostly stayed put, and some people like them because they just sold well as they were, but it has advanced it on to be a fully modern bike. So this 2024 dual sport enduro adventure bike really is a 2024 up-to-date kind of bike for what it is. Now, like I said, I would have liked to see an LED headlight because when you look at this thing, you really can't tell it's special. But when you start driving it, drive modes, cornering ABS, like the lean sensitive ABS, traction controlled, all that stuff, the great suspension, great power, it really has got a lot, including things like the quick shifter. It really has got a lot to offer for someone who is skilled off-road who wants to have fun. So there you go. There's my review of the 701 Enduro. If you have questions that I didn't get to, things you want to know more about this bike, let me know in the comments below because I will come back here, and I want to thank Yard Gear Power Sports for giving me access to all these bikes. Again, if there's more that you want to see, we're going to cover the entire 2024 lineup. We're going to make sure that you have the information you need, and we'll keep going from there. So thanks everybody for watching. We'll catch you in the next one.